Okay, so here's the next step in the process. I'm not sure what number video this is. I'm gonna probably maybe consolidate some of these. I've got all 4 connecting rods on, and I started talking and putting cylinder 1's piston and sleeve on, and then I looked up after I was done and realized that I didn't actually push record on the camera. So you're gonna get to see me install number 2, but that's probably all I'm gonna install on video because there's really no point. It's all the same. So because this is cylinder 1, this is the stuff for cylinder 2, because it doesn't like to sit like this, I'm flipping it over so that this is 1, 2, 3, and 4, just because it's a little more stable platform for this particular step. So the step is basically I'm gonna make sure that the wrist pin slides in the way it should, and because the thickness of that area there, I can go ahead and kind of pre-slide it in, and then I can lube up. Lube this hole up. Not like it really needs it, but it's getting lubed up anyway. And I'm gonna get some lube all around this ring. And then we're just going to put up in there and slide this pin in there. And there we go. So it's in place. Now, this first cylinder, I believe the first cylinder was running hotter, because none of the cylinders are going to run the exact same temperature. So I can kind of see it, but I know you're not going to be able to see it here. At least on this first cylinder, cylinder 1, you can see that there was a little bit more discoloration of the oxidizing here, and I think it's because that exhaust stub comes out here, and so that would have been the exhaust side. I think I see the same type of thing here, where this side looks a little warmer. So throw some oil in that sleeve. Did it go in there? Lube that sleeve up. Compress my ring. Slide this into place. And now we'll just start hand threading some screws in. Yes, I know I'm not wearing my gloves, but sometimes there's just times where you really just need that full dexterity. I'm probably might pay the price for that here in the next day or so, but I will wash my hands very thoroughly and lube them up with Skin Happy Lube. So this step in the process is basically just going to be this. I'm just going to put pistons and sleeves on. I'm not going to go and do the heads. I want to kind of do everything, keep everything going in the same order. Now, I have not installed the cam followers yet, or the tappets. I can do that. I could have done it before this step, or I can do it as soon as I'm done running these down. As long as I do it before I put the push rods in place, that's the most important thing. So I'm just running these things out. I'm not torquing them at all. And I'm grabbing the cam followers and I'm lubing them with the oil that's on my hand. Now they do have an orientation. There's a flat side and a side with a dimple for the push rod. So let me just get the correct orientation and stick it in, and there you go. So that's cylinder number 2 installed. Now I'm going to shut off the video and do these last 2 to the same point, and then if I feel so inclined I will turn on the video for the installation of the heads. Okay, good morning JP. This video is specifically for you, and I've already put each of the cylinders on, and now I'm going to do all the heads, but I'm probably only going to film one head, which will be the number 1 cylinder head, which is this one right here. So as you can see, I put this mount, the rear mount, back on here just because it provides a much more stable base for assembly. So that's the only thing I've done since the last video. As you can see, I've got all the parts laid out here for the head assembly. I've got the head itself, the valves are installed, gaskets already installed, I've got some lube there, got the head screws. This is the exhaust headers, and every one of them has been cleaned up so that they look not quite new, but pretty close. They have their washer on there, the exhaust washer that's on there. This washer here goes inside the head. It's a copper washer. And then over here on the intake manifold side, we've got the same metal washer that goes here, and then they've got a little silver washer here. Got our push rod covers, our 2 push rods, valve cover, 2 rockers, the rocker arm assembly bracket, and the pin that holds them, and basically that's it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to tip this up like this, probably slide some of this out of the way so that you can better see what's happening here. So these push rods, tappets are already installed in the proper orientation. The push rods, and I don't know if I should zoom in more or not, I don't know that you'll be able to see much. The case side has a larger O-ring seal, and the upper side has the smaller one. So the first thing I'm going to do is just kind of set these 2 things in place. And I may or may not talk throughout this. I may just mute the video when I'm not talking. So we just want to make sure that we get these things lined up properly when we put the head on. Just drop a screw in here and that'll help me orient this. I'm going to drop the front screws in and see if I can just get a couple of threads to bite. Before I do that, I want to make sure I put a little bit of lube in these. I already did hit the top of this a little bit. Just going to run each of them down until they're all just kind of snug in a diagonal pattern here, until they're just kind of starting to touch. I'll try to keep this in frame as much as I can. Now you can see here that these things are actually not straight up and down, they're kind of offset, which is kind of one of the reasons why it's a little tough to get those things lined up initially, because it's not just straight, it's so those look good. Sounds like my blue jays are outside. Okay, so now these OS push rods do not have an orientation. They're just straight rods. They don't have a tapered end like Sato ones do. So I'm just going to drop these in place. And then we'll mount our bracket here. This is where it gets kind of tricky because you kind of have to lay these on here, the rocker arms on here. And while you're sliding this shaft in, the shaft has got, wow, you can see that, got flats on one side, which is the top, and then it's round all the way around. So I'm probably going to have to do it like this, because you've got to slide this shaft through here, catch this center piece at the same time. And I don't know if maybe holding that with a magnet would be the easiest thing to do or not. As it goes rolling away. Maybe I'll just leave that push rod off for now. Okay. Because you also got to make sure your push rod is fully engaged in that. In the push rod, or the rocker arm is engaged in the push rod cup. And keep this thing straight up and down. Of course, that'll be kind of self-guiding once those set screws grab it. It'll be self-righting. And you just tighten the set screws down. And I can try to put this at an angle so you can see the I don't know if you can see that movement or not. Am I seeing the movement? Yep, there's that one. It's an intake. Exhaust. I heard a little compression here as this thing was sitting on the table. Okay, enough of that. Yeah, I hear you keep sucking down there. So what I don't believe that I'm going to put I will just go ahead and loosely put the cover on, even though I'm not setting the valve lash at this time. And I'm not going to put I'll loosely put the glow plug in, but setting the valve lash won't come until all of the heads are on. So I'm just going to kind of loosely put these things in here just so that I don't have any more containers filled with things. I want to put all these parts in here. Unfortunately, I think I'm still going to have containers with, I don't think that's the right size. Now there are no gaskets that came with the interface between the rocker cover and the head on OS engines. OS doesn't do that like Sato and Enya do. I'll put a little bit of torque on these things just so it sort of looks, I don't know, should I put the intake manifold on? I really don't want to put the intake manifold on yet. But what I think I am going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put lubrication on each of these things so that I can at least put those washers in there and they should stay in place. This is the intake side. So this one will go in here. Just tap that down into place so it'll stay. There. Tap it into place so it'll stay. Alright, and I think what I can do just to make sure, I'll just put a little piece of paper towel in there to kind of make sure those don't come out and get lost. And I think maybe I can just kind of loosely, yeah, it was going to come off anyway. Maybe I will just kind of loosely thread this intake manifold on there. I don't think it's really going to be in my way. Hopefully not. It needs to be loosely threaded anyway because there's probably a little bit of finagling that's going to need to be done. These are always a little bit tough to get started on the threads too, because it's not exactly a right angle. There we go. So if I just leave it like that, it'll hold it in place and it'll just kind of flop around there. I'll do the same thing with this exhaust header. Pull that paper towel out. Hopefully that gasket doesn't come out with it. Yeah, like it was going to. Alright, so those are just kind of going to loosely flop like that now. I'll just kind of, maybe I can tighten this one up a little bit so it stays down in a lower position. So it's not flopping so much. But, there. So there you go. That's your head installation. No parts left over. Everything's intact. All I'll have to do is, once I get all the heads on, set the valve lash.